welcome everybody. Let's go ahead and get started. We've got a lot to cover tonight, so I'm looking forward to getting and rocking and rolling here. Kind of like Olivia said, this whole seminar is started by flipping.com and the Texas REIAs. The Texas REIAs is the largest network of real estate investor associations in the great state of Texas, with branches in Austin, Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio. Over 150,000 members, participants, and attendees going back to 2003. So the question is, why do you care and why does that even matter? Well, the reason you should care is because real estate is local, laws are local, contracts are local, and contractors are local. Buyers, sellers, houses, everything about real estate is local. There's 30,000 YouTube videos that talk about how to invest in real estate. They all talk about how to do it anywhere. Well, how to do it anywhere is how to do it at 30,000 feet. But real estate is not bought and sold at 30,000 feet. Real estate is bought and sold at 0 feet. So if you want to know what laws apply here and which contracts to use here, which contractors to hire here, and which neighborhoods to invest in here, and where to find the buyers, sellers, money, and everything else here, well, that's what you get at your local real estate investor association. And my job is to make you all into educated, contributing members of our community. So we are live, welcome, and we're also broadcasting. If you're on GoToWebinar, you're listening live. If you are, on the other hand, on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, or Instagram, you may or may not be live, but you're welcome to come to any of our live events by simply going to flipping.com/live. We have multiple events every single week. So I'm going to get started by answering a question of how to get started, because we get asked a lot by people that come to the REIA, what's the best thing to do as a real estate investor? So for example, you can be a residential real estate investor, you can be a commercial real estate investor, you can be an active real estate investor, or you can be a passive real estate investor. So which one is the best one? And my best answer for that would be, yeah, they're all great. Yes, they're all good. But it really depends on kind of why you're here. So for example, if you tell me, well, I'm here because I want to quit my job, replace my income, generate some extra income over the next year, or maybe make an extra $100,000 in the next year. If that's why you're here, if you're here because you want to supplement your income or replace your income or quit your job or start something new, if you want to just make $100,000 in the next year, then I'm going to tell you, you should be flipping houses. Flipping houses is really the fastest way to get into real estate, to make money, even if you have little or no money. And I always like to remind people too, that whether you have money or not, it doesn't really matter. Interestingly enough, it's nice if you have money, but it's not going to help you much. And the reason it's not going to help you much is because nobody has enough anyway. Like, let's say you already have $500,000 in your checking account. Great, good for you. Go buy a house. Okay, now you're done. Yep, that was it. Can't buy another house, right? Because all your money's in the first house. So no, you have to be prepared in this business to buy any property at any time at any price. Because you have no idea, the deal that can change your life could show up tomorrow. So you have to get comfortable, whether you have money or not, using other people's money. It's the only way this scales. Now here's the good news, there's 257 different vendors that support this network. They're paying for the chairs you're in right now. And those, including in those, are money lenders. So there's lots of money available within this network. In fact, we have over 1,000 private money lenders in this network. Private money is faster, cheaper, better than hard money or any other kind of money. But it requires you to network, to have a relationship with the money. But going back to our story, if you're here because you want to quit your job, replace your income, if your primary goal for real estate is I'm going to make an extra $100,000 in the next 12 months or less, then I'm going to say you should be flipping houses. Now, if you say, but that's not why I'm here. What I'm really here to do is to build wealth. You know, I like my job. I'm not worried about money in the short term. I'm looking for long-term wealth. If you're here primarily because you're looking for long-term wealth, then I'm going to tell you, you should be buying rental properties. The smartest thing I did when I got involved in real estate over 20 years ago is I bought myself a portfolio, but I bought a bunch of rental properties. And those rental properties are now worth more than $30 million, right? And because they've doubled and doubled and doubled. And then the tenants paid off the mortgages. How cool is that? So I actually owe less than $5 million total debt on a $30 million portfolio, all because I just bought a bunch of rental properties a long time ago. Smartest thing I did. If I could only go back, I would have bought more. Now, I will tell you, let's make this a little interactive here. I'd like to get your opinion. What do you think about the market right now? Do you think it's kind of high or think it's kind of low? Let's do a poll. No right, no wrong. I'd like to get everybody to answer the question. And there's no judgment, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just an opinion. Who thinks houses are kind of expensive right now? Who thinks houses are kind of expensive right now? Okay, who thinks houses are kind of cheap right now? Who thinks houses, oh wow, we got a lot of expensives and just a couple cheaps. Okay, well, I'll share my opinion. I think they're freaking dirt cheap. I'm pretty astounded. I was looking at the MLS the other day and I almost fell off my chair. I was like, holy cow, I can't believe how cheap these houses are. I was shocked just at how cheap the houses were. That's just my opinion. But, don't ask me. I want you to ask somebody you trust. In fact, I want you to ask somebody that you trust more than anybody else in the world what their opinion is, because I know you trust them and more than anybody else in the world. And I want you to say, what do you think of house prices, right? The person you trust more than anybody in the world. So who should you ask? I want you to ask, okay, future you. Okay, I want to ask yourself 20 years in the future, what do you think about house prices back in 2025? And you know what future you is going to tell you? Oh my God, do you realize you could have bought houses, like ordinary houses in Dallas, Texas for less than $3 million a piece? Holy crap, you should have bought them all. Yeah, when I started buying rental properties 21 years ago, I paid ridiculous prices. Most of my houses are in downtown Austin, Texas. And I paid ridiculous prices for those houses. Some of them I paid like $125,000, some were like $150,000. I think I paid like $175,000 for one of them. It's crazy, I know, it's really ridiculous. Right now those houses are worth $750,000, $850,000, $1.2 million. Yeah. Here's something kind of interesting about rental properties. So being in this business for 21 years, every time people get into the business, they always say the same thing. Houses are expensive. Next year, you're going to say houses are expensive. In 5 years, you're going to say houses are expensive. Okay? Who cares? The question when you're buying rental properties is not what they cost now. The question is the difference between now and 20 years from now. Okay? So whatever you think houses are now compared to 20 years ago, 20 years from now, it's going to be exactly the same thing, right? Compared to now, 20 years from now. Okay, so when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the second best time to plant a tree? That would be now. So you're planting trees right now that will determine your entire future. Plant well, in my opinion. So, if you're really looking to build wealth, I'm going to say you should buy rental property. In my opinion, everybody should buy rental properties. But if you say, no, that's still not why I'm here. I want to make money with my money. I'm here to make money with my money. I came to learn how to make money with money I already have. And I want to make more money than the stock market. Well, here's the thing. Wealthy people don't invest in the stock market. Okay, the stock market is public equity. Wealthy people invest in private equity. Why? Well, because it's about twice the return and about half the risk. And if you knew there was something you could do rather than what you're probably doing now with your 401k or whatever that had twice the return and half the risk, you're never going to go back to the stock market. So what is the most common form of private equity? Commercial syndications. Commercial syndications. Now, it does require a little more thought. It's not as simple as just buying Apple Computer. Anybody can buy Apple Computer. It's really simple. But the simple stuff that is for the masses is not the best, is it? No. It takes some education. It takes knowing how it works. It takes going behind the curtains to get involved in the commercial stuff. But commercial syndications typically have twice the return of the stock market and half the risk. So nobody ever goes back to the stock market after they learn about commercial syndications. And most of these deals are structured so you put 50 in, you get 100 back, you put 100 in, you get 200 back. Most of the deals when you're investing in commercial syndications are structured to double your money. And that's pretty cool, right? Putting 100 in and getting 200 back, that's cool. But then you realize the guy you invested the 100 with, he's making $1 million plus. So maybe you want to be that guy. So if you're here saying, well, Phil, you still haven't hit why I'm here to do the big deals. I don't want to do the little deals. I'm looking to make 7 figures, $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, maybe even $10 million a year. If that's why you're here, yeah, you need to be sponsoring commercial syndications. You need to be sponsoring commercial syndications. So they're all good things to do. I participate in all 4 quadrants. I love them all. I support them all. Most people start by flipping houses. And then, once they, find some good ones to hold on to, they hold on to the good ones. Now, once you make more money than you need to pay your bills, you're going to want to make money with your money. So you're going to put some of that in commercial syndications. And when you put money in commercial syndications, you're going to get a copy of the business plan, meet the sponsor, see the property. You're going to kind of get to follow along, right? And then you're going to double your money, and then you're going to say, well, that's cool, but if I were the guy sponsoring the deal, I would have gotten 10 times as much money from that. So they're all good. Now, if flipping.com and Texas REIAs, we offer training and money and resources for all of these things. So regardless of which of those kind of 4 quadrants you're looking for, we can support you in all of those quadrants. I will say if you're specifically interested in commercial, you might want to take a snapshot of this. We put little QR codes on the screen and we'll connect you up to some commercial resources. Now, when you take a snapshot of that, it doesn't ask you for your name or anything. It just sends a text message from your phone to our system, and then we text you back some resources to that. But let's go back to the chart and do a quick poll of the audience. I'm just kind of curious what we got here. So let's do a poll of the audience. How many of you would say that you're here mostly because you want to make yourself an extra $100,000 in the next 12 months? Who wants to make an extra $100,000 in the next 12 months or less? Okay. How many of you are here mostly because you're really looking to build wealth? Who's looking to really build wealth? Okay, that's pretty popular. How many of you are here because you would like to make money with your money, learn about investing in private equity? Private equity? Okay, that's cool. And then how many of you are here to do the big deals? Who's ready to do syndications? Okay, great. We got a pretty good mix here. So they're all fantastic. Let's get started. Now, most of you kind of picked quadrant 1 and 2. So let's start with quadrant 1 and 2 and talk about how to make money in residential flipping and renting. And good news, there's a dozen different strategies that you can use to make money getting started in residential flipping and rental properties. So I'm going to teach you these strategies right now. So by the way, everybody, I'm Phil Grove. You saw that little video, quick introduction to me. I became a real estate investor 21 years ago. I've negotiated over 1,200 deals, own about $30 million in rental properties, made a lot of money along the way. I've taught over 100,000 people, all here in Texas, how to invest in Texas. So I may hold that record, probably do hold that record. I don't know if anybody's taught more Texans how to invest in Texas than me. So, because I'm very well known in Texas. And I've taught well over 100,000 people. And I'm gonna hopefully teach you guys little things tonight. So I'm a common speaker here at the Texas REIAs, and let's get going. These are some of the deals. Boom. These are some of the deals. There we go. That made me some money. Don't have time to go through them all, but I do up to a real estate transaction a week in some shape, form, variety, or another. And that creates what we call money in big chunks. Now that sounds cool, right? Money in big chunks. But I'm not here to sound cool. I'm really here to teach you. The way this business works is as follows. We do things to find people with problems. And here's the really good thing. For every kind of problem there is, we have a solution, a strategy that helps you, helps people, solves their problem, gets us paid. So I'll give you some examples. I found somebody facing foreclosure, big problem, and I gave them an alternative to a foreclosure, something called a short sale, that allowed them to sell their property without having to destroy their life and their credit. And I made $16,000 helping somebody solve a problem. REO stands for real estate owned, bank-owned properties. Banks don't want to own real estate. So I took it off the bank's hands, flipped it, and I made $36,000. Got a property that had a legal problem. Had to sell a house by Friday. A realtor cannot sell your house by Friday. I can. And wholesaled it, made $5,000. Got a property subject to my specialty, no money, no credit, flipped it, made $68,000. Okay. $5,600 for an assignment, $6,000 for a mortgage assignment, $10,000 for a wholesale, $2,800 for a small referral, $12,400 for a large referral. Yeah, the way this business works is as follows. We do things to get people with problems to call you, and then here's the really beautiful part: for every problem that exists, for every lead that exists, for every homeowner that exists, for every house that exists, we have a strategy that helps people. It's about helping people, solves their problem, their need, and gets us paid. We can help motivated sellers. We can help non-motivated sellers. We can help people that own their houses free and clear. We can help people that are hopelessly underwater where they owe more money than the house is worth. We can help them solve the problem and get ourselves paid. Sometimes we get singles, sometimes we get doubles, sometimes we get home runs. Sometimes I work on a lead, a deal, an opportunity, a problem for 6 months, and after 6 months I make $5,000. And I'm like, oh man, 6 months, $5,000. I could have made more money working at Walmart. Thank goodness I'm not working on just one lead at a time. Sometimes my phone rings and that phone call makes me $55,000 in 48 hours. And I'm like, oh man, I wish every time my phone rang I made $55,000 in 48 hours. But that's not how it works either. It's maybe 1 in 100 phone calls. So the question is, how often do you get 100 phone calls? Well, you can determine that because it depends on how much marketing you do, how many deals you look at. Do you look at 100 deals a week? Do you look at 100 deals a month? Do you look at 100 deals a year? So you can determine that. Depends on how much marketing that you do. So there's 2 essential skills you have to learn to be a real estate investor. The first and foremost skill is marketing. Marketing is generating the lead or finding the deal. Okay? We need to spend 85% of our time and money on marketing, generating the lead, finding the deal. Outsource pretty much everything else. Next skill we have to learn is strategy. Strategy is doing the deal, solving the problem. We buy houses, we help people sell houses, get rid of houses and mortgages they don't want, can't afford anymore. We do that in a variety of different ways. It solves a variety of different problems. So those are the 2 skills, marketing and strategy, finding deals, doing deals, finding problems, solving problems. So we use 65 different methods to find motivated sellers and off-market property, because we buy off-market property. We use a dozen different strategies to help people. It's about helping people solve their problem, their need, and get ourselves paid. Over half of the marketing methods, by the way, are completely free. And 9 of the 12 investing strategies are actually no money and no credit strategies. And when you learn how to buy houses in real estate with no money and no credit, then how many houses can you buy? Let me try that again. When you learn how to buy real estate with no money and with no credit, then how many houses can you buy?
A lot.
Oh, I like that. All of them. How many do you want to buy? All of them. Yeah. If I ask you a question, you just kind of shout out all of them, you're probably going to get it right. All right. So marketing strategy, finding deals, doing deals, finding problems, solving problems. Let us get started with the marketing. Let's get started with the marketing. Oh, wait, first I'm going to tell you a quick story. This is the very first house that I flipped. I flipped this house on December 15, 2003. Actually, I'll tell you a little story. On December 14th, 2003, I was scared to death. I was actually being coached and mentored by the 2 guys who ran the Real Estate Investor Association back then. I called them both on the phone on December 14, 2003. I'm scared. I don't want to lose any money. Are you guys sure this is going to work? Yeah, it took 2 seasoned, experienced real estate investors pulling me, kicking and screaming over the starting blocks to get me to do that very first deal. So if you're new, if you're just getting started, if you're scared, I get it. I can relate and I can help. But I had one other thing that actually is motivating me at that time in my life to make forward progress. I was in a job I no longer loved, and I was in a career that I no longer loved. And I got to tell you, if you're spending your time doing something you don't love doing, you need to do something different with your life plan. And that's exactly where I was on December 15, 2003. I needed a different life. And I got to tell you, hey guys in the far back, can we keep the noise down a little bit back there? Sorry. All right. And that's where I was. I needed a different life. And I got to tell you, you got one life, and it just races by. We just started a new year, didn't we? Right? And most people have a New Year's resolution. You know what the most common New Year's resolutions are? There's two of them, right? Lose weight and make more money. Okay, I can't help you with the weight, but I can help you with the money. But, you know, every year we have these New Year's resolutions, and most people make the New Year's resolution, and then the year goes by, and then the next year comes and they make the same New Year's resolution, and the year goes by, and it's like, you know, there's only so many years, right? They just keep going by. It's like my wife and I recently had a baby boy, and this last weekend I noticed there was a 15-year-old running around in my house, and he wants a car. And it's like he's taller than me. And I remember feeding him a couple times, but what happened to the last 15 years? I mean, it just raced by, right? So the point is, if you're not on a trajectory, you know, to reaching your God-given potential, if you're not on a trajectory to getting the life that you want, yeah, now would be good, you know, to change the trajectory. So that's where I was on December 15, 2003. I wanted a different life. So let me tell you a little bit more about the first deal, because your first deal in so many ways is your most important deal. It's kind of like your first kiss. Everybody remembers their first kiss, life-changing experience. Everybody remembers their first deal. I'll tell you about mine. It took me 6 months to find my first deal. I was actually a slow starter. Got it under contract with the contract I got right here at the REIA. Bought it using OPM, other people's money, private money lender, right here at the REIA. We got 1,000 of them. Got a contractor right here at the REIA to fix it. Got a realtor right here at the REIA to sell it. Got an attorney and title company right here at the REIA to close it. And I went to that very first closing, and I picked up that very first check, $15,384.26. And do you know, when they handed me that check, it was like you unscrewed the cap, popped out the old brain, popped in the new brain. Because right up until that moment, I was a real estate investor based on theory. And I wasn't even sure I believed the theory. I don't know about this, not sure about that, don't know about that. But the second they handed me that check, like a switch flipping, I didn't know anything different except I knew it actually worked. Right? I became a real estate investor based on experience. And what I realized when they handed me that check is if I did this and this and this, I get another check, right? It worked the first time. If I did this, this, and this again, I get another check. If I did this, this, and this again, I get another check. But the really big deal that I noticed when they handed me that check, right at that moment, I realized that I would never, ever, 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 for the rest of my life, ever have to work for somebody else. Ever, 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 never, ever again. And I have not worked for anybody else even for 1 second since they handed me that check. So if you're new and you're just getting started, here's my first piece of advice. You need to focus yourself like a laser beam on that very first deal, because that very first deal will change your life, mostly by changing your mindset. Deals 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 combined, not as hard as deal number 1. So I told you I was going to tell you what I did right, but I'm also going to tell you what I did wrong, because I did make one very common rookie mistake, even with that very first deal right out of the chute. I spent all that time finding the deal. I finally found the deal. Once I found the deal, I kind of put my marketing on hold. I picked up some hammers. I worked on the deal. I finished the deal. I got the check, only to wake up the next day and realize I had absolutely nothing to do. Well, I mean, except start the whole business all over again. But this gets me to my very first takeaway. And this is the big one. And here it is. The business of being a real estate investor is the business of finding deals. This whole business is about finding deals. Why? Because you make your money on the buy. What does that mean? As soon as you get a property under contract, whatever money is going to be made or not made, it's done right at that moment. Yeah, you get the money at the end on the sell, but you make the money on the buy. And once you realize that, then you realize you always have to spend 85% of your time and money on marketing, looking for the next deal, because your next deal is always more important than the deal you have now. The rookies all screw this up. The rookies finally get enough marketing going to finally find a deal. They do a deal, they make some money, great, but while they're working on the deal, they're not looking for the next deal. So the deal's over, they don't have another deal, they restart the marketing, eventually they get it going again, eventually they find another deal, they do a deal, they make some money, great, but while they're working on that deal, they're not looking for the next deal, right? So they reset the marketing and their income goes up and down with big gaps in between. You need your income to go up, 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 up. And the only way to get that is to always spend 85% of your time and money on marketing, looking for the next deal. The next deal is always more important than the deal you have now. And hint, the deals you are looking for are not in the MLS. The MLS is the multiple listing service. It's the retail market for real estate. It's where realtors sell real estate. It's where all the people in the world compete with each other to see who will pay the most. And I hate to say it, but when you're competing against all the people in the world, some of those people are stupid. And you don't want to compete against stupid. Well, you don't want to win competing against stupid. Now, don't get me wrong, folks. I love the MLS. I adore the MLS. Why do I love and adore the MLS? Because after I buy off-market wholesale real estate, where do I want to go to resell it? Where do you think? On the MLS. Because it's been proven that any property, sold at the MLS, on the MLS will sell for the most it could possibly be sold for. That's just never where you're going to find heavily discounted wholesale real estate. The very best deal in the entire MLS would rarely be a deal that a real estate investor would even take a second look at. So, finding deals. Once I realized this whole shooting match is really about finding deals, well, then I started to systematize the process of finding deals. And over time, I developed 65 different methods to find deals. Actually, that's not totally accurate. What would be more accurate is to say I found 65 things that work and I started to do those things. In fact, I need to teach you all a really important lesson. Maybe the most important lesson I'm going to teach you today, but for me to teach you this next lesson, first I need to unteach you all something. So let me try unteaching you all something. When you guys are in elementary school, if you looked over at the paper next to you and you copied down the answers, that was called what? What do they call that? Cheating. And you're all told that cheating is what? Wrong, bad. Okay, we're not a bunch of little kids. We're not in elementary school anymore. Going forward, I need you all to unlearn that. Because going forward, guess what? Cheating is actually the shortcut. Okay, what am I saying up here? What I'm trying to say is this, guys. There's nothing that you're trying to do. There's absolutely nothing that you're trying to figure out that I and other people haven't already done and figured out. Everything. And I mean everything. And I mean absolutely everything about this business has been completely figured out. We know what's in the soil. We know the zoning. We know the guys that write the zoning. Okay, we know the appreciation rate down to the street level across all the streets, across all the cities, across the state of Texas. We know exactly what letters to send to exactly what lists. We know exactly what offers to make. We know exactly what objections we're getting. We know exactly how to overcome the objections. We even know on average how many contracts we're going to get signed for every 20,000 postcards we send out. Everything about this business is completely understood. So once I realized everything I was trying to do and everything I was trying to figure out, other people had actually done and figured out, then I stopped trying to figure everything out and I just started to, here's this word, right? Copy, okay, copy, there it is, copy the 65 tested, proven ways to actually find these deals. Now, some of these methods or campaigns take time and some take money. When you get started, you probably have more time and less money. Once you get going, you've got more money and less time. I will be honest with you, I don't spend any time anymore on marketing. I outsource 100%. But when I got started, I was insourcing more. So then what are all these different marketing methods? Well, let me teach you a whole bunch. First set of strategies has to do with mailing lists, marketing lists. So you can buy lists of motivated sellers. And what do you do with a marketing list? Well, you can do marketing. You can send them letters, postcards, or you can call them on the phone, or you can send them a text message, or you can knock on their door, or you can send them an email, right? Or you can do what I do, because I don't have time to do all that other stuff, and I use an AI chat bot to talk to everybody and schedule appointments with the ones that want to talk to me. Or you can do a combination of those things, which is called a multi-touch campaign. So then what are some of the popular marketing lists? Well, you can get a list of people that are late paying their property taxes. In Texas, property taxes are due on January 31st, once a year. If you don't pay it, you end up on a list. It's a big list. You can get a list of people that are late paying their mortgage, people that have been scheduled for foreclosure, people that have filed for divorce. Two people were combining their income to pay a mortgage. Now one of them's gone. Well, the one that's left is probably having trouble paying the mortgage by themselves. You can get a list of people who passed away and have a will. You can get a list of people who passed away and didn't have a will. You can get an AI-generated list. I like that list, right? Big data analyzes all the people to see patterns to determine which ones are motivated. You get a list of people who have been dismissed from bankruptcy, certainly a lot of financial distress in that list. Get a non-owner occupied list. There's a list of people who own a house, but they don't live in the house they own. Well, technically, that's a landlord. And a lot of them are accidental landlords. They couldn't sell a house, so they rented it out. Or they let an ex-spouse or family member, or friend or neighbor stay in a house, or they inherited a house with a tenant. They didn't really plan to be a landlord. And eventually, they very often become motivated sellers. You can get a list of people who rent to people on public assistance. You can get a code enforcement list. You know the city is already driving around issuing citations for abandoned houses, hoarder houses, deferred maintenance houses, and you can actually get the city to get you a list of every deferred maintenance of every problem property in the city. You can even get an expired listing list. This is a list of people that hired a realtor, tried to sell it, and it didn't sell. So what do we know about these people? We know 100% of these people would like to sell their house, probably now more than ever, but they probably need solutions that realtors don't offer. Hello? That's exactly what investors do offer. So if you send letters, postcards, door knocks, AI chats to all these people, some of them call you back, read them a script and make them an offer. Some of them say yes, because it's nothing more than a numbers game. Statistical probabilities, and we'll get into the numbers in a minute. If you're liking to buy a list, we have 257 vendors. Take a picture of that, and those are some lists that you can access. So we have 257 vendors of the Texas REIAs. They pay for these meetings, they pay for training and market updates, and they provide all kinds of services to real estate investors, including motivated seller lists. So if you want some of the best lists in Texas, there's where you get them. You're welcome. All right. Other ways to find a deal. The website can get leads on the internet, bandit signs, 18 by 24 inch plastic signs. You see them on the side of the road. We buy houses. Why do you see those signs? Because they actually work. Online ads work, email, autoresponders, magnetic signs, little sign on the side of your car. You buy the sign once, you get leads for the rest of your life. Door hangers, you don't want to pay postage. For 10 cents a door, you can have your door hanger or door flyer put on every door in a neighborhood. Here's one that's pretty much free, driving for dollars. Sometimes I'm just driving around and I see a tarp on a roof. They might as well be waving a big red flag. Desperate motivated seller, please buy my house. I mean, think about this. A tarp on a roof. Somebody's most valuable asset, a house, has a serious problem, a leak, and their solution was to go buy a $5 tarp at Home Depot. How come they didn't fix the roof? What do you think? What do you think, guys? No money. Same guy that's not fixing the roof, not paying his mortgage, not paying his insurance, not paying his taxes. Sooner or later, an investor is going to buy that property. So other marketing strategies. Letters of intent. What's a letter of intent? A letter of intent is an offer. So who should you send an offer to? And the answer is everybody. I'm going to give you all your first homework assignment. Tomorrow, I want each of you to send 300 people an offer on their home. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Because here's how investors think. Ready, fire, aim. You make the offer, and then you negotiate. You make the offer, and then you look for the money. You make the offer, and then you do your due diligence. You make the offer, and then, and only then, do you think about it. You should make everybody an offer. Why not? Do you know that here in Texas, every time you make somebody an offer, do you know you get 4 different options? You might want to write them down. Option number 1, you can buy a house because they might say yes. If you take 300 shots on goal, what do you think is going to happen? Something's going in, even if you suck. And with practice, what do you think is going to happen? Yeah, you get better, more than go in. Yeah. So option number 1, you can buy a house. Option number 2, you can terminate the offer. Do you know the Texas state promulgated contract gives the buyer the unilateral right to just rip it up, walk away, no harm, no foul, no expense, no risk? Yeah, a Texas contract. You got a period of time, you can just terminate it. I changed my mind, no risk, no penalty, no cost at all. Option number 3, you can renegotiate. Do you know that it's much, much easier to renegotiate than it is to negotiate? Especially when everybody that calls you back is saying, what? I might want to sell, i.e. I want to negotiate. Option number 4, okay? You can even sell the contract to somebody else that has money. Notice only one of those 4 options required you to come up with any money to buy a house. Just make offers, that's the point, and give yourself options. FSBO, for sale by owner, this is cold calling. Why would people try to sell their own house? Maybe they're lazy, maybe they're crazy, maybe they need solutions realtors don't offer. Hello? That's exactly what investors do offer. So why so many different marketing methods? Well, would you rather fish with a hook or would you rather fish with a net? Answer is you need to learn to fish with a net. And the reason is because this business is a numbers game, and now I'm going to teach you the numbers. I'm going to teach you something right now that it took me 2 years of hard work in the trenches to figure out. So I'm going to shave 2 years of your learning curve right now. By 2005, I had been a real estate investor for 2 years. And I calculated in my first 2 years, I generated about 400 leads. What does that mean? I was looking at a property every couple days for the first couple years. And then I did the math. And here's what I figured out. As a rookie, for every $100 that I spent on paid marketing, things like direct mail, I got 1 qualified motivated seller lead. As a rookie, for every 3 hours I spent on personal marketing, that's free marketing, things like driving around, driving for dollars. For every 3 hours I spent doing that, I got 1 qualified motivated seller lead. Then I discovered that as a rookie, on average, for every 20 leads I got, I made at least $20,000 net profit on a deal. That means every time I drove around for 60 hours, I made at least $20,000 net profit. That means every time I sent out $2,000 in direct mail, right, postcards, I got $20,000 in profit. Spend $2,000, make 20. Spend $2,000, make 20. Spend $4,000, make 40. Spend $8,000, make 80. Spend $16,000, make 160. Spend $32,000. You don't have to spend it all at once, by the way. Make $320,000 net profit. Are you starting to like the numbers? It took me 2 years to figure that out. But after 2 years in the trenches, what I realized is, holy cow, this whole business is just a numbers game, and now I know the numbers. And that was a game changer for me. Because as I realized that, once I realized that, I now see my whole business, this business, in a whole different way. I now see my entire business, like the whole thing is just a little black box. And we're going to call that little black box a marketing machine. And the way that little black box works, every time I stick $100 worth of marketing in one end, eventually $1,000 worth of net profit pops out the other end. So if you had a little black box, right, where every time you shoved a $100 bill in one end, a $1,000 bill popped out the other end, how many dollars would you stick in the box? How many guys? Now, all of them, yeah. And that's what I did. I started spending money on marketing like a drunken sailor because I knew. I started spending thousands of dollars a month on marketing. And then I started spending tens of thousands of dollars a month on marketing. And then I hired 2 full-time 6-figure guys that work for me to this day that spend 100% of their time spending my money on marketing. And today, in some months, I spend as much as $100,000 a month on marketing. Because once you realize it's a numbers game, and once you know the numbers, you just dial it in, and then you dial it up. Sometime later, I actually wrote a book on real estate investing. I don't offer the book anymore. It's not helpful. I'm not saying my book is not helping. Any book is not helpful. Real estate, you can't learn it by the book. That's what I figured out. I went to engineering school. I learned real estate. Real estate's not that complicated, okay? I got to tell you, real estate is not that complicated. Engineering school, that was complicated. When I went to engineering school, I had to take calculus, calculus 2, calculus 3. By the time I took calculus 3, I had to remember calculus 1 and 2. It was really, really complicated. I've never had to solve a differential equation, okay, to flip a house. But unlike engineering and calculus, that's a mile deep, here's the thing about real estate. It's a mile wide. There's a million little details. And what I learned about real estate is it's not complicated, there's just a million details. It's not learning a skill, it's learning a language. But you can't learn a language from reading a book. That's the problem. Go read 100 books on how to speak Spanish. You'll learn how to count to 10. You can't learn a language from a book, right? The only way to learn a language is what? Immersion. Yeah, you want to learn Spanish, go to Spain. You want to eat or go to the bathroom, you're going to learn some Spanish. And it's the same thing with real estate. You got to hear things 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 times before you start to pick up enough of the detail to be able to do it. And it was not until my wife and I joined a network, right, big network, and started hanging out with real estate investors. That's the trick. You have to spend time with people that are doing it to hear things, immerse yourself 5, 10, 20 times to pick up enough of the details to actually do this. So that's why I don't offer the book anymore. So we are going into the final stretch of this presentation. We're going to do a market update, and then we're going to do a commercial presentation a little later. But if you remember earlier, I said my job is to make you all into educated and contributing members of this community. And we really do want you to be both educated and participatory. We do these meetings all over Texas. Every time we do these meetings, we have a lot of new people at the meetings. And we like to call the new people tourists, right? Hey, honey, let's go check out the REIA, right? Nothing wrong with that. But we did figure out a long time ago that unfortunately nobody makes any money being a tourist, right? We don't want people just checking it out. We need people to be active, buying, selling, partnering, lending, borrowing, investing, right? That's where everybody starts to make money. But we also I figured out a long time ago that unfortunately I can't turn people into real estate investors in 45 minutes. If I could only figure out how to sprinkle pixie dust on everybody's head and turn them into real estate investors in 45 minutes, yeah, that would be awesome. I don't know how to do that. But I can, and I have, turned lots of people into real estate investors over a period of 24 hours. Or maybe it would be more accurate to say 24 hours spread out over 3 days, giving us the time to get through all the nitty-gritty details of how this actually works. So we talked about marketing, and now we're going to talk about strategy. So marketing, check. Let's get into the strategy. So people ask me all the time, well, what's the best strategy? Because there's so many different ways you can do this. Well, let's talk about that. You can certainly do a lot of different kinds of strategies. My clicker stopped working. Oh no. Sorry guys, that's a bummer. Not sure why my clicker stopped working. Sometimes the tech gods don't smile, and sometimes they do. How about that? It's just not working. All right, well, bummer. I'm going to have to use the manual method. All right, so what's the best strategy? Well, there's a lot of ways you can do this, okay? You can do short sales. You can do buy and hold mortgage assignments. You can do auction options, referrals. You can do wholesaling, contracts for deeds. You can do lease options. You can do house swapping, wraparound mortgages. You can do equity partnering, and you can do fix and flip. And you can certainly spend a lot of time and money in education. My wife and I have actually spent over $100,000 on training, coaching, seminars, books. Most of it was great. Some of it was not great. It all sounded great. But I don't feel bad about spending over $100,000 on our education because we've made many millions of dollars from our education. But I do have a little pet peeve at how most people teach and how most people get taught. Because when you look at all of these different strategies, here's the good news. They all work. All of these strategies can make you money investing in real estate. That's the good news. What's the bad news? Well, the bad news is that they each only work in unique situations. Because each of these strategies is actually the solution to a particular problem. But remember what job one is, finding the deal. So here's a brand new investor looking for a deal. And he does some marketing and generates a lead. What is a lead? The name and number of somebody that might want to sell real estate. Well, if this guy had gotten the right training, he would have learned how to help that particular seller using a strategy called a wraparound mortgage. But that's not the training he got. He just went to a wholesale seminar and all he learned how to do was wholesaling. So he's looking for a wholesale deal. He didn't find one. Found a wrap deal. He doesn't know how to do that. So what's he going to do now? Well, can't make money on that lead, so we're going to do some more marketing and generate yet another lead. Now, if he only knew how to do a mortgage assignment, he could solve a problem and get himself a check. But he doesn't know how to do that because, remember, all he knows how to do is wholesaling. So he's still looking for a wholesale deal. Didn't find one, found a mortgage assignment deal, doesn't know how to do that. So now what's he going to do? He's going to generate another lead. Now, if he only knew how to do an auction option, he could solve a big problem and get himself a big check. But again, he doesn't know how to do that because he's just looking for a wholesale deal. He still didn't find a wholesale deal. Are you starting to see a problem? I would call this big rookie mistake number 2. There's 30,000 YouTube videos that talk about how to get started investing in real estate. And what most of that education says is you need to get started by learning one strategy, and this is the best one. No, this is the best one. No, this is the best one. Well, whatever. You need to learn a strategy, make money on that strategy, and after you learn and make money on that strategy, later on you can learn some other strategy. And it sounds pretty good and it feels pretty good, but forgive my language when I say this, that is a completely ass-backwards way to go about this. Saying that you need to get started by learning one strategy and make money on one strategy before you learn the other strategy, that's kind of like saying you need to go to Las Vegas and learn how to bet on one number on the roulette wheel. And then only after you make enough money betting over and over and over again on that one number on the roulette wheel, later on you can learn some other numbers. Well, that's ridiculous. Yet that's how 95% of real estate investors get started in investing in real estate. And then is it no surprise that 95% of real estate investors give up before they ever get going. And probably about 95% of wholesalers. So let's talk about wholesaling. There's nothing wrong with wholesaling. Wholesaling is one of the 12 strategies that I use and that I teach. In fact, frankly, it's the easiest one to teach. The problem or challenge, however, with wholesaling is that I would argue that it's probably the hardest one to do, that on average makes the least amount of money. So when somebody tells me I went to a seminar or I read a book and I want to get started by wholesaling, here's how my brain translates that plan. I want to start by doing the hardest thing there is to do that makes the least amount of money. And you know, is it no surprise, you know, that 95% of people that try to execute that plan end up giving up before they ever get going. So for example, how many of you have read the book, The Millionaire Wholesaler? That's because it's never been written. Nor will it ever be written, because it's the hardest thing to do that makes the least amount of money. So I'm going to show you what the top 5% of investors do. And then I'm going to tell you, play to be in the top 5%, you know, or don't bother. because they make all the money. So this is what the top 5% of investors do. And this is how I'm going to teach you how to do it at the workshop. What I do is I bet on all the numbers on the wheel, and then I spin the wheel a lot. And then what do I mean by I bet on all of the numbers on the wheel? Why not use all 12 strategies? Why not learn all 12 ways to fill out a contract? You spend time and money, it's called marketing, to get somebody with a problem to call you. If there's a way to help them and solve their problem or need and get paid, you need to help them and solve their problem and get paid. And once you know all 12 strategies, guess what? We have a solution, a strategy for every situation that exists. There is no exception. Motivated sellers, non-motivated sellers, free and clear, hopelessly underwater, right? You can help them solve their problem, get paid. And then once you learn how to bet on every number on the wheel, then what do you want to do? You want to spin the wheel a lot. And that means what? Look at a lot of deals, do a lot of marketing, and take a lot of shots on goal. So this is what the top 5% of investors do. My advice, play to be in the top 5% or don't bother, because they make all the money. So how do you do that? You got to know strategy. So let's get into some strategy. Actually, first I'm going to tell you a fun story. This was my first big deal. After I was a real estate investor, for just over 2 years, I flipped this house. I actually made $291,000 flipping this house. Pretty good profit. But the more interesting part of the story is I was actually the 8th investor at bat. So what does that mean? 7 other real estate investors passed on this deal before me, right? How is that possible? How could 7 different real estate investors pass on a deal, an opportunity to make almost $300,000? How's that even possible? I'm going to tell you, it's not just possible, it's actually typical. Let me tell you the rest of the story. First investor walks into this house and said, I'd love to buy your house, but you're underwater. You owe more money than the house is worth. You can't afford to sell me the house. Second investor says, I'd love to buy your house, but you're in bankruptcy. I can't buy a house from somebody in bankruptcy. Third investor walks into this house and says, well, I can help you avoid a foreclosure by doing something called a short sale, but I can't do that while you're in bankruptcy. Plus you have a mid-construction project. I don't do a mid-construction project. I walked into this house and I said, my, oh my, oh my, you have a lot of big problems, don't you? Big problem means what? What do you think? Big opportunity, exactly. You know, it took 1, 2, 3 different strategies to solve this guy's problem. I solved the problem, I got the check. My competition was a bunch of one-trick ponies. Most of my competitors are a bunch of one-trick ponies. 30,000 YouTube videos teach people how to be one-trick ponies. One-trick ponies are annoying. They get in the way at times, but they don't last long. Guys, if you think you're going to find pretty houses at big discounts just waiting, hanging off of trees out there, yeah, you're smoking crack, okay? This is what opportunity looks like. A big bundle of problems with a nice pretty bow around it. I want a house where half the house burned down. I want a house that had a meth lab that exploded in the garage. I want a house that flooded. I want a house that has mold. I want a house where someone was murdered in the living room. Oh yeah, you can make a killing on a murder house. I own one. Murder's not common. Stigma is common. How do you make money on a stigma house? Okay, let me give you an example. What do you think it cost to buy a murder house? Anybody want to guess? Not much, like 20 cents on the dollar. And you know what everybody says when they look at that house? They point at the house. That's a murder house. And a year later, they're going by that house. You know what they do? They point at the house again. Something bad happened in that house. A couple years later, they're going by the house. They're kind of looking around like, somewhere around here, something bad happened. About 5 years later, they go by that house, and what do they say? How much? Nice house. Stigmas go away. Bought a house for $180. It's now worth $580. What did I do? I didn't do anything. I just rented it out for 5 years to a guy that didn't mind living in a murder house. I gave him good rent, you know. But the point is, stigmas go away, and problems are opportunities. Somebody gets shot in a bar, it's a crime scene. A few years later, it's a tourist attraction. Yeah, think about that. Yeah. So I'll tell you another story. One of my students recently bought one of those $150,000 Teslas, paid cash for it. and he calls it his air car. Air car. H-E-I-R. Air car. Somebody died without a will. Do you know that 2 out of 3 people don't have a will? Light bulb, opportunity, right? But they did have 42 heirs. And everybody said, no way, man. There's no way you're going to get 42 people to agree on something. Big problem. All right, he rolled up his sleeves and it took a little effort, but eventually he got 42 people to agree that a little bit of something is a whole lot better than a whole lot of nothing. Now he's driving around in a $150,000 air car. Problems are opportunities. Big problems are big opportunities. So we do marketing to find the problems, and we use strategies to help people solve the problems. So let me teach you a couple strategies. I got time for 2. First strategy I'm going to teach you today is wholesaling. Easiest one to teach. I'll teach you right now. How does this work? You simply find a property and get it under contract. How much does it cost to get a property under contract? Nothing. Can we all afford that? I think so. Now, instead of buying the property, we're simply going to get it under contract, and then we're going to sell or assign our contract to another buyer for a fee. How much is the fee? Oh, $500 to $5,000 for a small deal, $10,000 to $25,000 for an average deal, $25,000 or more for a big deal. And this, my friends, is a no money, no risk strategy, as are 9 of the strategies. And I've discovered it's really hard to lose money when you're not actually spending or investing any money, right? There's a lot of ways to do that, by the way. So let me give you an example. When you come to the workshop, I'm going to teach you the theory. I just taught you the theory. But then I'm always going to tell a bunch of stories, because you have to see case studies. That's where it really makes sense. You have to see actual examples. So let me show you an actual example. This is Kimberly. She came to the workshop, and she did her first deal. She told me about this after it went down. Her mom was visiting her from out of town. So her mom's in town visiting her. She's in the car with her mom, and her mom's like, Kim, where are we going? Oh, well, Mom, we're going to get a house under contract. What? Kim, are you crazy? What are you talking about? You just graduated from college. You don't have any money. You don't have any credit. You don't even have a job. What do you mean you're getting a house under contract? Don't worry, Mom. I know what I'm doing. So Kim's mom watched Kim walk into this house and offer the seller $265,000 cash for his house. And he signed a contract. Now, obviously, they talked on the phone ahead of time. Obviously, it was a motivated seller. Kim then took the contract and she posted it out to the network. Remember I said you want to be a part of this network? You know that thousands and thousands and thousands of times over the last decade, the members of this network post their deals, contracts, offers, questions, resources, loans, back and forth over that network. So Kim posted this deal out to the network. We meet every minute of every day. And guess what? Several other members of the network wanted to buy that deal, that contract, from Kim. So Kim just sold her contract to another member of the REIA for $17,000. She just sold her contract for $17,000. So now Kim is a believer. Well, actually, Kim was a believer. Now Kim's mom is a believer. Now, what would Kim have done with the contract if nobody had wanted to buy the contract? Then what would she have done with the contract? You guys know? Yeah, terminate, right? No harm, no foul, no risk, no penalty. But she didn't need to, did she? All right, so then who bought the contract? Another member of the REIA by the name of Tatiana. Let me tell you about Tatiana. I know Tatiana very well. Tatiana paid Kim $17,000 for the contract. It then became Tatiana's contract. Tatiana, then bought the house for $265,000. So crossed Kim's name out as a buyer, wrote her name and company name. Then Tatiana bought the house for $265,000 cash. She had the cash. She kept the property for 6 months as a month-to-month rental until the tenants moved out. And then she did a renovation and a small addition. And then she sold the house after owning it for 12 months. And when she sold it, she made almost $100,000 of net profit. Then she only had to pay long-term capital gains taxes, no income taxes. Do you think Tatiana was pretty happy that Kim found that house for her? What do you think? Yeah. Let's do a poll of the audience. I want to get a lot of participation here. Just out of curiosity, see what we got here. How many of you are cash buyers? Raise your hand if you're a cash buyer. Cash buyers? All right, let me ask you a different question. How much cash do you have to make a cash offer? How much? Zero. Well then, how much cash do you have to be a cash buyer? Zero. You don't have to have any cash to make a cash offer. You don't have to have any cash to be a cash buyer. You just need to know somebody with cash. So let me ask you guys another question. Does anybody here know somebody you could call if you got a smoking hot deal to buy a property for a big discount for cash? Does anybody know somebody you could call? For example, who? You. Yeah, what do you think I'm doing up here? If you make cash offers, that's how you get motivated sellers to accept your offer. There's what's called the cash value of a house. Somebody wants to sell a house in a week, it's worth the cash offer. It's like the lump sum when you win the lottery. Right? If you make cash offers, people want the cash offer, will sell it at 70 cents on the dollar if they're motivated, right? And then you don't have to have any cash to make a cash offer. You just need to know people with cash. So, but I can see I have my work cut out for me. So let me try this again. By a show of hands, how many of you are cash buyers? Raise your hand. All right. Great. I love talking to a room full of cash buyers. You know, and the network instantly puts people with cash in connection with people with money, right? With people with contracts in connection with people with cash. But you've got to change your mindset. Anybody can make a cash offer. If you make a cash offer to a motivated buyer, right, some of them will say yes, right? Then you can sell that contract or buy the property at a discount, either way. All right, and that's how this works. One more strategy. This one's a bit more complicated and a bit more interesting. It is called buying a property subject to the mortgage. This is buying real estate with no money and with no credit. Does that sound interesting? I am a nationally recognized expert at teaching this strategy. I may be the national expert. I'm certainly a national expert. I don't know if anybody's successfully taught as many people that have actually done this as I have. I don't know. How does this work? What does this mean? How does real estate work? When somebody buys real estate, how does that work? They go to a title company, they sign a stack of documents. Most of the documents at the closing are disclaimers and disclosures, but there's two documents at the closing that make the closing happen. The two documents that make everything happen are the deed and the note. The deed and the note. Okay? Whosever name goes on the deed, that's who owns the house. Whosever name goes on the note, that's who's responsible for the mortgage. So those are the two active documents, a deed and a note. Notice those are two separate documents. Now, most of the time, it's the same guy that's on both. The guy buys a house, his name is on the deed, his name is on the note, he owns the house, he's responsible for the mortgage, that's normal. He moves into the house, it's his house. And all the rights and privileges and responsibilities and benefits of home ownership, they all go to him, it's his house. At the end of the month, he gets a statement from the bank, says you owe us $2,000 for your mortgage. He writes the bank a check for $2,000, bank cashes the check. Bank's happy, he's happy, everybody's happy, that's how it works. But then, the guy goes on to get married. And well, you know, Texas is a community property state, so when the guy gets married, the wife is added to the deed. So now there's two names on the deed, his and hers. But his name is still the only name on the note. Because just because somebody's taken her on or off the deed, that does not affect the note. And then time goes on and things don't work out and they get a divorce. And in their situation, the wife gets the house in the divorce. So now something kind of interesting has happened. Now hers is the only name left on the deed, but his name is still the only name on the note. So the question is, as long as he keeps sending a check to the bank every month, or she starts sending the bank a check every month, or a tenant, or a property manager, a neighbor, investor, friend, or family member, or somebody sends the bank a check every month, the question is, does the bank actually care who wrote the check? What do you guys think? No. There's some dude sitting at the bank getting paid $9.82 an hour to open envelopes. Oh, we got a check, came on time for the right amount. We're good. So if you're all listening to my story so far, I just told you all a story about a woman, about a spouse, about a person that was able to acquire and own real estate even with no money and with no credit. So there it is, an example of somebody that acquired real estate with no money, no credit. I told you I was going to teach you how to do that. All right, so here's the really, really good part. You can all do exactly the same thing, and you don't have to get married to do it. So here's the deal, and you're going to like this. Anybody can go up to any homeowner that has any loan, any mortgage, from any lender on any house at any time, and you can make them an offer. The offer any of you can make with any homeowner that has any loan, any mortgage from any lender on any house at any time is this. I will make the payment on your mortgage for you going forward. Or I will find somebody to make the payment on your mortgage for you going forward. What's the catch? You simply have to transfer the deed, which is ownership of the property to me. It's called buying a property subject to the existing mortgage. You can do this with any homeowner that has any loan from any lender on any house at any time. And the only person on the planet that has to agree to the transaction is the person whose name is on the deed, not the bank. The bank has no say in the transaction. Anybody can transfer their deed to anybody. Anybody can pay somebody else's mortgage if they want to. So if you're listening to me closely, here's what you just heard me say. You can buy any house in Texas from any homeowner in Texas that has any loan from any lender. You can buy that person's house at any time, and you can buy and own that person's house even with no money and even with no credit by simply offering to take over the payment on their mortgage, or even offering to find somebody to take over the payment on their mortgage in exchange for them simply transferring the deed, which is ownership of the property to you. And once you learn how to buy real estate with no money and with no credit, then how many houses can you buy? All of them. Look, when somebody's in financial distress, they got a house and they got a mortgage, and they're in financial distress. Is the house the problem or is the mortgage the problem? Owning a house is never a problem, right? Being responsible for a mortgage, that can be a big problem. If you solve the big problem by taking over the payments or finding somebody to take over the payments in exchange for solving the big problem, you ask them to transfer the deed, which is ownership of the property to you. So that's really what we're doing here. We're simply agreeing to pay somebody else's mortgage in exchange for the deed. Now, once somebody transfers their deed to you, you own it. You can do whatever you want with it. You can renovate it and retail sell it to somebody else. You can wrap it, you can assign it, you can keep it as a rental property, you can keep it as your own homestead if you'd like. I've helped many of my friends here in Texas buy their very own homestead with this little or no money, no credit needed strategy. How much money can you make? Well, there's a lot of ways to make a lot of money when you're buying houses with no money and with no credit. Small flip, at least 10 or 15,000, typically a lot more, and this is yet another little or no money, little or no risk strategy. Let me walk you through an example of a deal. This is one of the $30 million worth of houses that I own here in Texas. Now, if I wanted to buy $30 million worth of houses traditionally, I'd have to put down 20% every time I bought a house. So in other words, I'd have to be a multi-millionaire just to become a millionaire. Well, I wasn't a millionaire when I was sitting in these chairs and learning how to invest in real estate. So then how was I able to accumulate $30 million worth of houses? Well, most of them, including this one, were acquired exactly using this strategy, subject to. So let me tell you about this one. A woman owned this house worth $150,000. She only owed $110,000 on the mortgage. So this house has $40,000 in equity. She had the house rented out for $1,600 a month rent. The mortgage payment, including taxes and insurance, is $1,100 a month. So this house is generating $500 a month of gross cash flow. It should have, it could have, and it would have been a perfect rental property, except for one major problem. This woman had lost her job. She was continuing to collect the rent because she was living on the rent, but she stopped paying the mortgage. 4 days before the first Tuesday of the month, when the bank was going to foreclose on her, I knocked on her door. Can I help you? I am here to help you. But what can you do? There's no time. They're going to foreclose. There's no time. How can you help? They're going to foreclose. What can you do? How can you help? Here's what I can do. I can stop the foreclosure. I can reinstate your loan. I can catch up your mortgage payments. I can make your mortgage payments for you going forward. I can even repair all your credit. Well, that's amazing. What's the catch? You simply have to hand the deed, which is ownership of the property, to me. And she said, deal. Why in the world did she say deal? Because in 4 days, she's getting foreclosed on. That's a done deal. But she wasn't just going to get, foreclosed on. In addition, she was going to get a little bonus to go along with it. In addition to losing her house, she was going to take the credit hit to go along with it, right? And this is what I said to her, when I explained it to her. You may think a foreclosure is the end of your problem. It's not. It's the beginning of a 10-year nightmare. It starts with the sheriff and his deputies dragging you and your family and all of your possessions to the curb in front of your friends and neighbors. It's 10 years of dealing with the IRS potentially garnishing your wages to collect on a 1099 that could be issued against you for up to the full value of your loan. It's 10 years of dealing with the lender potentially filing a lawsuit against you for up to the full value of your home. It's 10 years of dealing with creditors calling you day and night to collect on the judgment from the lawsuit. It's 10 years of not being able to buy another home, not being able to buy a car, not being able to get a credit card, not be able to rent certain apartments, not able to open certain bank accounts, or even get certain jobs. In other words, it's a bullet to the head. And nobody wants all that. And I stopped all of that from happening to her. And she was thrilled. She even said thank you. And the bank was thrilled because they didn't want the house back. They just wanted their money, so I gave them their money. And the tenants were thrilled because they didn't want to get kicked out of the house. They wanted to keep renting the house. So I let them keep renting it for me. But mostly I was thrilled. Because for $4,500, which is what it cost me to reinstate that loan, I now own this beautiful $150,000 house, came with a loan, came with $40,000 of equity, all mine, came with tenants paying me $1,600 a month rent. After I paid the bank $1,100, I put $500 back in my pocket, and if you think that's cool, well, my wife and I own $30 million worth of these houses. Some of them took small amounts of money like this. Most of them honestly took more money than this, but then some of them took absolutely no money at all. So let me ask you guys a question. How many of you would like me to walk you step by step by step through how to do this deal? Okay? We're all out of time. No, I'm just kidding. We're almost out of time. We got more training to do, so we're going to finish this one. I love this deal. But I got to tell you, I'll bet you don't know why I love this so much. You know, some of you are like, oh, you're making $500 a month. Yeah, that's not it. $500 is not going to affect my life or my lifestyle in the slightest amount. That's not it. What I love about this strategy is by doing this over and over and over again, my wife and I were able to accumulate a portfolio of rental properties that's now worth $30 million. In fact, just over the last 3 years, that same portfolio has appreciated by more than 30%. In other words, just over the last 3 years, my wife and I became more than $10 million richer from having done this thing over and over again. This thing that required little or no money and no credit. That's what I love about this. You see, this is the strategy that allows anybody, regardless of money or credit, to become multi-millionaires. And when I realized the wealth potential of this strategy, I actually made one additional tweak to the strategy. I no longer buy these houses in my name. In fact, I no longer buy these houses in my company's name. Now, when I buy these houses, I prefer to buy them in my IRA. How many of you are aware that you could do this transaction with your IRA? Okay, well, for the rest of you, you can do this transaction with your IRA. One of the 257 vendors of the Texas REIAs is Directed Trust IRA. When you come to the workshop, I'll tell you what, they will set it up so you can do this with your IRA. Or you can use your IRA to invest in real estate if you want to. They'll do that for you. So what happens when my IRA does this deal? Well, My IRA issues the $4,500 reinstatement fee, right? And the deed transfers to my IRA. Every month, the property manager deposits $1,600 of rent into my IRA. Every month, the IRA automatically issues a check for $1,100 to pay the mortgage back to the lender, and $500 rolls back into the IRA. But that's not the good part. So then what's the good part? Over the next 25 years, this property will double in value. And it'll double again. And even at very conservative appreciation rates, it'll almost double a third time. Something interesting happens to the loan over the next 25 years. What happens to the loan? Gets paid off by the tenants. Thank you very much, tenants. In other words, every time my IRA does this deal, my IRA ultimately ends up owning an asset that's worth about $1 million that by then I own free and clear. And because my IRA is also a Roth IRA, when I sell that asset in retirement, 100% of the proceeds are tax-free. Did y'all just see what I did? I just showed you how to turn a $4,500 IRA into $1 million tax-free doing one transaction one time. Helping a woman out of a horrible situation, right? Helping tenants stay in a house they wanted to stay in, helping a bank not take a property back they didn't want to take back, all that just doing it once. The average retired person at the age of 65 has a net worth of $62,000. If you just did this one deal one time, you'd be 25 times richer than the average retired person just doing this once. But I'm going to tell you, I've never seen somebody do this deal once. 95% of the people will never do this deal. And 100% of the people that do it once, then what do? They do it again. And then what do? And then they do it again. And then what do? They do it again. And 21 years later, they're standing behind a podium at the Marriott talking about all the times they did it. So again, how many of you would like me to walk you step by step through how to do this deal? All right, I'm going to walk you step by step through how to do this deal. How to find the property, how to get it under contract, which contract to use, which attorney and title company to close it at, and how to go through all the operational steps to do this deal. So I'm going to walk you step by step through all of that.